And we are still here on the Gospel Giant 94.7 FM, and I am still with my guests, Ms. Randy, Mr. Leon, Sakita, and Stephen. We were talking about communication when we left, and we talked a little bit about this off air. Let's explore a little bit the part of the communication that Stephen was talking about, and I think Randy phrased it, not just dialogue, but the understanding. When people, sometimes the single people in the single arena, meeting people, and you're honest with people about where you are, the things that, you're able to take on, I'm not ready for a committed relationship, or I just want to explore the friendship first, because I know for one, that's a big thing for me. Like, I want that to be the foundation of a relationship for me. And sometimes it's taken really personal. The comprehension of it is like it's about them and not about you. Share your thoughts on that.
I honestly believe that maturity makes you more able to control emotions. I think the emotions in a person are the things that want to drive things faster than maybe the person they're attracted to wants to go. So when a person is not able to control their emotions based on the truth that you share with them, I just got out of a relationship, I don't want to jump into another one, can we take it slow? Say dog, see dog is what we say in television. Let whatever you say be what you do. And consistency tends to win out every time. It really does. People tend to believe what you say the first time until you're proven not trustworthy. So if you say what you mean and they can't handle it, I think Steve had the term red flag. That's a red flag. Don't miss that red flag. That's somebody that's not handling their emotions properly because they didn't get the answer they wanted. And it's time to move on from that.
And Randy, you kind of shared something really important too, that it's about being able to be your authentic self.
Right. I think that our need to be accepted a lot of times when we give a truth that we hold fast to because we are attempting to be our most authentic self. When it's not received, it's time to just stop. But because we need to be accepted, we want to be accepted, we engage because we're trying to please. We please because we want to be accepted. And so we find ourselves in relationships doing things that don't make us happy or that require more than what you want to give. And you've tried to be honest. And so when in fact you can't be your most authentic self in any relationship, not just the man-woman relationship, friendships, parent-child relationships, be your authentic self. Mean what you say. I agree with the consistency aspect of it. If you can't if I have to change anything about who I am in order to be in a relationship with you, this relationship isn't beneficial for me.
You said something that prompted a thought. How many people or relationships do you guys think exist where people are staying, say, for status, or where people really aren't being their authentic selves, and there are all these other reasons they think for them to be there? Do you think that there are more of those than there are people that are together because they light up each other's lives?
Well, priorities in a person's life will designate how they assess their happiness. So if I have A, B, C, and D, and these are met, and romantic vacations is E, F, or G, and they're not being met, I'm still happy with A, B, C, or D. I honestly believe
You mean like say giving up finances or giving up, you know?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's rough. It's rough out here. Let's just be honest. It's rough out here. So we got the basics covered. You know, the chilling, eating, and going to school and happy, and the house isn't leaking, and the cars got gas in them. You know, there's some things that are going on that are right.
So more people settle, you would say.
Absolutely, and I don't think it's settling. I honestly don't think it's settling. I think the maturity of a relationship gets to a point where it takes less, and this is a man talking. It takes less to make you happy.
Well, you chose to keep the.
When he said takes, I think it just changes over time, like after you've been with a person for so long, and so you always have to examine who you are and they who they are, and who you become, and that's why marriage is work, and you have to work on it every day, because I mean people change. I mean, I'm not the same person that I was when I met my husband 18 years ago, which brings me back to us communicating and talking. I mean, because surely I just know I'm different, and the things that I desire now and my perspectives are different, and so we've had to accept that from each other and kind of learn each other daily, because we change, and keep that in mind at all times. But I do think some people, maybe they stay in relationships for whatever reason, necessities, financial. I know groups of people that have done that too, so I guess it's just different for different people.
Absolutely.
Honestly, yeah. Definitely different people. Some are together to this day just for camaraderie. You know, you see those relationships where there's not much spark of anything. They're just complacent and content with being together at their, either sometimes even in their young age.
It makes me sad.
You know, I've seen young
But it's
couples who are just okay with being together. Don't have no spark, don't do much together, won't interact, won't have long, deep conversations, and they're just fine.
Yeah.
And then you get some who are older in age and they don't care to have to do anything different for their spouses. But at the end of the day, you still want to try. Complacency is the last place you want to get caught in anything you do.
But there's some people that are together that were never meant to be together in the first place. Stay together 30 years. Yeah. Because they decided, I'm gonna make this work.
True.
You know, they were never really compatible in the first place. But they committed, and they decided to own up to that commitment, come hell or high water, and they stayed together. They waded through it. They figured it out.
And would you say that in this age bracket, would you say that that's one of the greatest barriers? Because people did stay for 30 and 40 years, and now they don't know anything else. They don't know. They're not they're young selves where you're learning about, this is all you know. This is the extent of what you know about relationships. So it's kind of hard to date, and
the unknown is a little difficult to tread into blindly when you got something that you know that's solid. No matter what's missing from it, there's not enough missing from it to want to tread out into the unknown.
Right.
Yeah. So there's one thing about aging and the aging process. We become less able to take big risks, less desirous of taking this big risk. I think we're able to do it, but we've decided in our mind that we can do the math, and a big risk may not be worth the reward, may not be worth the risk. So, bird in the hand, if you will, is the mindset. Again, it depends on two things. One, is it bearable? And that's different for everybody. I mean, what can you bear? If it's bearable to you, and let me take bearable back. That's a bad word. Comfortable. Is it comfortable? And what is comfortable to you? And if it's not comfortable, then you want to get out of discomfort. But if it's comfortable, if you learn to be comfortable, then you stay. I know that sounds boring, to especially younger people that want this adventure every day. with the person that's their significant other. And I understand that. I was 21. That was 41 years ago.
And so you don't think that at this point you could have the adventure in a relationship?
It would be different.
Uh-huh.
It would be.
That's okay. That's different.
Adventure's a venture.
I think
It's
it's
different, yeah.
I think it's about one, how you qualify or measure successful relationships. What measure do you use to determine what a healthy, good relationship looks like, and the vantage point that you use? So, if we measure using a world lens, you get a perspective, and that's settling and that's compromise. But that's what it requires to be in any relationship. It's the work of it. Because you're not going to always be right, nor is your spouse always right. And so how do you find common ground? And is it wrong or bad? And so I really think it's a lot to do with how you measure successful relationships, like not just marriage, but work relationships, whatever kind, and your viewpoint on it. If you use God's measures, He is in me, and so I'm enough. I'm enough with you. I'm enough without you.
So you talked about being your authentic self. What things are you willing to sacrifice for a relationship?
Depends on the person. Depends on the person, depends on the situation. Everyone's different with different person. Same reason why someone can be with someone for 10 years and never want to get married, and then see somebody else and get married in 8 months.
And people change in relationships. That's a very good question, Doc. People change in relationships. There are people who buy a new outfit every month, and then they get married and realize that for budgetary reasons and the responsibilities of a house and whatever, that's not doable. So if I'm willing, if the relationship is worth more to me than being sharp every day, or turning heads every time I go out, then I'm willing to do that. I know people that used to change cars every other year, and then they get married, drive a car 10 years. Guilty. You're very guilty. So in making the new decisions that it takes to keep a relationship going, those decisions really are more about what's worth more to you. And that's going to be individual. Everybody's got a different answer to that question. What's worth more to you?
Yeah. But I think I agree with that. I also think that we have a hard time knowing what that is, because many times we don't assess or can even articulate for ourselves what we believe. And so what you are willing to compromise kind of is shaped by the relationship, and because you don't really know what you stand for, especially when you're younger. And you talked about growing and maturing and evolving as you've been in this 16-year marriage. You weren't this Takitha 18 years ago. And so I think as we evolve, the things we're willing to give up change as well. And the more you are aware of who you are, the more you understand that giving up things doesn't change you, the person. It's just a thing. So whether it's a car or a dress, it doesn't change who I am. It's just a thing.
So, Leon, you mentioned one of the most important aspects of a relationship was trust and integrity. Can trust be rebuilt?
It depends on to what extent it was damaged initially. And it depends on whether or not you're dealing with a person that's a second chance forgiving person. Not everybody's forgiving. People who have been hurt are much more unlikely to be easily forgiving than people who are being hurt for the first time. Experience tends to weigh in the back of our brains and come up, even though it was an experience that wasn't with the current person.
Same feeling.
It's the same feeling.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, it may even ignite that feeling from back then, but it's you that did it, so you're responsible for both of them now.
Okay.
Yeah,
I get
that I'm feeling that way. So I believe that learning to forgive has to do with being successful when I forgive somebody. In other words, it turned out okay. I didn't forgive you and you hurt me again.
Well, so that's funny because I think it's when you are the recipient of forgiveness that teaches you how to forgive.
I don't disagree with that at all.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
I think that,
Yeah.
and it's definitely, forgiveness is, there's not going to be one bad person, rarely is there going to be one bad person and one good person in a relationship. That's going to be real rare. Now, I've seen some relationships last forever with two bad people in them because one just outdoes the other at being bad, and that's their competition that keeps them together. I mean that. I knew a relationship, had a friend that stayed with his wife, and all they did was fight. But they enjoyed that. That's what they got out
That
of
was
it.
their
They
thing.
work
That
together.
it worked for them.
Wow.
You know, we're all crazy to an extent. But forgiveness is one of those things that has to be asked for first. And there's a word called atonement. I just can't say I'm sorry. I need to show you that I'm sorry. I need to atone for what I did, which means changing my demeanor going forward. And in a lot of cases, a lot of people aren't ready to change their demeanor. They just want to throw that I'm sorry, buy you
Get past the moment.
buy you a present, or take you out to dinner, or something that shows that materialistically I'm sorry,
See,
and then
that
move
hinges
on.
on abuse to me.
Come
you
on.
know, that hinges on abuse. You know, like, to me, to just know that you're not genuinely sorry, but that you could do some type of have a gesture,
Mhm.
you know,
Make a gesture.
that says that's received as I'm sorry or as an apology, but then you have no intention, you know, of changing. You just the intent is not to change; it's just to get past that
And so then the
cycle.
responsibility is on you at that point. Like, if they're not changing, they've communicated a priority. They've communicated what's important. Now you have a decision to make. But oftentimes we want the person to make adjustments. It's now your responsibility. A decision rests on you.
I
If
fully
you're-
agree.
If you're willing to keep the compromise or understand that this is who you are,
It becomes a cycle because you allow it.
and I can forgive you, I don't have to accept it anymore, your behavior, but I can forgive you. I'm just not going to accept it anymore. And when we don't pivot for ourselves, we get embittered because we stay and we allow behaviors that we expect someone else to change. Yeah.
How far you are
Yes.
down the road when you have to deal with that has a lot to do with how you deal with it.
I think so
True.
too, because
But
if
then-
I'm a first year married, no children, versus 10 years
Yeah.
married and
Has
a
a lot to
house
do with it.
full with all these
True.
responsibilities, you may respond differently,
But,
right?
and to piggyback off of that, sometimes we got to look ourselves in the mirror and ask ourselves how many red flags did we ignore.
Or what did you contribute to the
Right.
dynamic?
And contributing could have been just, like you say, just ignoring that red flag from the beginning. Like you said, hey, I don't really want to get into a relationship, but yet 5 years later you're in one, or 5 months, and you said you didn't want it, but that person kept on pushing, and then now they pushed again and pushed again. Now you're in a relationship and they pushed so many times, and now your back's against the wall.
We're overlooking one thing that I think needs to be said. There are some one-sided situations. There are some people that are much more involved in liking you than you are in them. And those, it sounds a little offbeat, but I know
Well,
I,
it's true.
Very
we
true.
still laugh at how you convey with you.
I just keep it real. And sometimes when a person is overly invested, letting go is the last thing. I mean, you almost got you got to do something very drastic. When a person is overly invested in making this thing, y'all laughing and you know I'm real. You know I'm real.
I just hadn't had to experience.
And hopefully none of us do. None of us do. But there are some very unbalanced relationships because the person that's overly invested is going to be there. And there's givers and takers in life. So when the taker realizes all they have to do is take,
You're gonna keep taking.
And I think there's always a bit of an imbalance, and what I mean by that
I
is-
totally agree.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's definitely.
I totally
imbalance.
agree.
And I think the
Yeah.
longer relationships are, the balance kind of teeters and totters throughout.
All right, so we're gonna talk further in just a moment. We're gonna take a break. We'll be right back on 94.7 FM.